Good morning. We're here up in sunny, well, not very sunny, nice dull Accrington today, and we're here to meet Dango, also known as Carl Farrer. Quick chat with him, we'll come back. Good morning, Carl, or Dango. How would you like to be, what's the word, the name you like the most?
Oh, my name I like the most, my name's Carl. Obviously Dango's sort of my drift persona, but you can speak about me every way you like as long as it's nice.
Yeah, I always talk about you nicely, you know I do. How did Dango go about? Because when I first ever met you, I think you had your Laurel with you, and I think you might have just put the M5 engine in it.
Yeah.
I think that was down at Three Sisters. That's the first
that
time I
would
met
have
you.
been that, yeah.
So how did Dango come about?
Dead boring. I was talking to somebody about it the other day actually from BBC, and it was just the first job I had. I used to be like an auto electrician for Scorpion car lamps, and Carlo Fandango was what, because it was Carlo, I don't know. Someone just called me that, and then they shortened it to Dango, like with any nickname, and it literally stuck from then, which is a very long time ago. Reg plate on the Laurel is obviously D8 NGO. I've always owned that plate on different cars, but the Laurel sort of stuck. So yeah, the nickname's really dull. It was just a shortened Carlo Fandango from my first job to Dango, and everyone just called it me, which is, but yeah, it's a strange thing.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure whether the car was called Dango and the people just got it all mixed together. I wasn't sure which was which.
No, it's always been me.
Right, cool. The next time I met you, I think, when you just bought the 86 with the V8 in it.
Yeah, Lakeside Tyres car, I think.
Yeah, and you was walking around saying this car's trying to beep, kill me.
One of its perks, and I suppose the appeal, was it did try to kill you every single time you drove it. It had no brakes. It was built in a way that was really rough. It had a handbrake that worked brilliantly. The foot brake was standard 86 calipers. It did not stop. If it was 500 horsepower and 1,000 kilograms with no brakes. And it had also additional quirks, like when we bought it, the alloy fuel tank had been bolted straight to the bracket, so it leaked and it flamed a bit. So you'd be driving around Three Sisters and it'd be flaming and there'd be fuel coming out of it. So it did actively want to kill me every time I drove it, which sounds fun, but I'm a little bit old for that. So I sold it to a very good friend, Hugh Guion Seville, who's made it a much better and safer vehicle now. He spent an obscene amount of money on it, which is ironic because our Gentleman's Drift Club team is Hayden Cruikshank, and at the time he had my old JZX81 Cresta and Guion, who had my V86 turbo, so I'd owned all the cars that were in the team at that point.
Right, cool. I saw your interview the other day on, what's Clarkson's things called?
Drive
Tribe, yeah, I seen that, and it said how you got into drifting. I know a bit of the story, but what was your first drift car, and how did it start?
Yeah, I've always had big power, Skylines, rear-wheel drive things. Obviously being old, we have a lot more rear-wheel drive cars. So I've always practiced on the road, if you like, as a younger person. And we did drag racing for a few years in Barricade, Skyline GTR like the one behind me. And I've always enjoyed that, but I didn't realise drifting was something that you could actually do. Paul Howard, JDM Garage, talked to me about it and said, I've got this Nissan Laurel and we're going to go to this racetrack. It was like a car park at a horse racing track in Wales. You should come down for the day and see if you like it and have a go in the car. So my friend took me down, he took me drifting, and again, I think the feeling I have when I take people out, 60 mile an hour, third gear, clutch kick, totally sideways. I just couldn't believe you could do that in a car, because it made anything I'd done before just seem so tame. Obviously, loved drifting, loved the car straight away, bought the car on my credit card and drove it back from South Wales, and that's the Laurel you see on my drive now, the one I've had for over 10 years. And that was that. That was drifting for me. We started, I think we did a day at Kerborough, possibly is, and that was way too small. And then Alton Park, they used to do skid pan days on the rally circuits, which you might know. It's a very slippy concrete surface that they make wet.
Right.
And that was, you go and do a day there, same set of tyres, you drive home on it. You'd be doing 12 mile an hour, but it felt super exciting. And then we started with a guy called John Jay at Drift One at Buxton. Like 10 of us would turn up and 4 of us would leave because we'd all wrote the cars off. And I ran the Laurel every month there from start, and that's where I learnt to drift really, Buxton and Alton Park skid plans, which was 11 years ago.
I've still never been in a drift car. I know you've offered me a few times, but both times you've asked me to come in with you, I've had a drink night before. So I thought I didn't want to decorate your car with something nasty. But I've still never been in a drift car.
Which is mental.
I know. All the people I know. I've not even been in a race car. I've sat in a few rally cars. I've not really been in a race car yet, after all these years of photographing race cars. Anyway, so you do a lot at Three Sisters. You do the drift taxi.
Yeah.
Is that open to anybody? So as long as you pay, you come down?
I mean, yeah, we've gone from, the youngest age possible to, I've had pensioners in the car. I had a lady who was semi-blind who just really wanted to do it. So we had some headphones set up so we could talk to her, tell her how fast we were going. We've took people out for BBC shows. We've done literally everything you could think of. Steve Berry, who used to be on Top Gear presenter, he's been out and took some of his staff out one day. But literally anybody can come out in the car. I would, we have tried in the past to let other people do the taxis, and I will let people help me if I've spent enough time and I trust them. But, you're paying for an experience and it should be a good one. So I try to make it fun but still smooth and safe as possible, as much as you can, because at the end of the day, drifting, we start where all of the motorsports end. At the point where you've got that sideways, you're crashing in any other motorsport apart from maybe rallying. So it's, I don't know, but that is, I suppose, one of the things I love about drifting, taking someone out for the first time that's never done it and showing them what you can do and how it is, and they just can't believe it. It's brilliant.
No, it is good to watch. You've done quite a bit of competing as well, haven't you? British Drift Championship, things like that? Yeah,
we've done. I sort of stick my toe in and out of competing. It's not the best or the most important thing for drifting for me. I think, drifting with your friends, having a good time, being on door all day, no damage, or taking people out for that first drift experience, putting on shows at demos is what I enjoy. It's not to say that I'm incapable of competing. We came second at RDC a few weeks ago. We won rounds at BDC. I won a championship in 2015, Retro Drift Challenge in the Laurel. So I can compete, and it is, but I think you've got to be at a point where that is just for fun, and people now are taking it so seriously, throwing all the money at it. And it's getting to such a point you have to do well, you have to have sponsors, otherwise you feel sort of let down. And that, drifting should always be fun. That's how it started, and I think that gets removed away from it when people are so competitive now.
Didn't drifting start in someone delivering tofu, something ridiculous like that?
You probably know more about the history of it than me. It was, it obviously started in Japan. They drifted around mountains in the 86s and stuff like that. And I think that side of drifting is what is amazing, really. The going hanging out with your friends, doing stuff that's a bit silly, and they weren't really into big power, big grip cars. I mean, I'm a bit lazy, so I like a bit of power because that makes it smoother and easier to do. But I appreciate all aspects of drifting, even the lower power, chucking them around. Yeah,
because obviously we see a lot of, I do the novice days at Three Sisters when COVID's not around. And there's people in standard MX-5s with 120, 130 horsepower.
Yeah, you can get by with a lot of commitment. You're just going that fast, you're sort of getting a power on oversteer where your car is just losing grip, as opposed to bigger power cars you can throw in at 12 mile an hour and do a rolling burnout out the other side. That said, even though people think, and there's loads of quotes, if you can't drift with 100 horsepower, 1,000 won't help you. It definitely will, because you can roll into a corner at 5 mile an hour and peel out at 70 with your tyres on fire. So, yeah. But it is hard to drift with a little power, admittedly.
Yeah, I know. It's great to watch. I might have seen something on YouTube a few weeks ago about a certain Mr. Dango drifting a Bentley.
Yeah, something I always said I wouldn't do as well, because I quite like the car, really. But we went to visit RDX Day, drift tuition at Three Sisters, where my good friend Matt Denham was there, and Dougie was helping him with Ben Somerville. And I just sort of stuck my head on the way past. I'd come back from a meeting, and I did offer to help if he was struggling, but they seemed to be doing fine. And they were like, "Why don't you ever go drifting your Bentley?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't want to do that. It's got one wheel tyre fire. It's not really equipped for that." And then, as it goes, I couldn't resist, and I had to have a go at drifting it. It didn't work. I tried it, but
it's fun to watch. about a month ago, I was at, again, the novice day, and there was a guy trying very hard to drift an S600. I've got some cracking photos of it. I'll show you, when I go, I'll show you on the phone, but I'll stick a picture up on the video of it now. But all it did was literally one wheel peels and the odd spin, and when he span, obviously it created smoke, but the guy didn't care. He said, it's a cheap, rubbish old car, I'm going to try and drift it.
If he'd welded his diff, he'd have probably been able to. There's a guy that does DANGO racing, I can't think of his name now, and he always turns up at not the novice days, the big boys days in a C32 automatic.
Yeah.
And he has the best day ever, automatic. There's a guy at Teesside used to turn up in a Mercedes, supercharged, it's a Bandit on the reg, CLK, and he would drift that all day, auto, supercharged. You don't need a manual gearbox, you just need power and a lock diff of some description. I would always say two-way. There's a massive debate about differentials that you should have, you know. But I always think two-way, because when you lift off the power, it stops the wheels locking, whereas a welder will always push on. So if it's wet or it's a bit more technical, you're going to get a bit of push on and understeer with a welder as you won't with a two-way.
Yeah, cool. Again, it's something I'd love to have a go at. I don't have the funds at the minute, you never know, this YouTube might kick off. I might be borrowing a car one day off you, or jumping in with you at least. Car history, and first time when I got to know you at the garage, you couldn't put a figure on cars you own. Obviously we can see two iconic cars here behind you. How many cars do you own? Favourite car? Of what you own, I mean.
Yeah, really tricky. 20, high 20s, maybe 30. I think it got over 30 and I sold a couple recently. It sort of gets to a level where you think, oh God, I can't have 10 cars. And then you've got over 10 and it matters less. And then you get over 20 and it matters less. But I think 30 was getting to a point where we were paying to store a lot of cars I didn't even want anymore or need. Favourite car? People have asked me that so many times over the years, and it's a really difficult one because it's what do you want your car to do? If you want it to drive to work, the Bentley's lovely. It's quiet, it's smooth, it feels like a treat even though it's an old car now. The Laurel, my first drift car, had it over 10 years, a lot of amazing times in it, a lot of amazing times for a lot of people doing the passenger rides and stuff in it, so that has a special place in my heart. I've got a 1967 Lincoln Continental convertible, like the Kennedy car. I haven't driven it for 5 years. It went in to have a roof fixed. I've almost forgot about it. I need to pick it up one day. I've only driven it a few times over a few years, but it always makes me smile and it makes me genuinely happy. Everything else is just, they are things that I like and I keep for various reasons. R32 GTRs are amazing cars. My old drag racing car, we won 2009 Pro Street Drag in it. So it's got sentimental value, so I've kept that.
Is that this one behind you?
No, that's another one.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously the Mustang 67 Fastback, famous from Gone in 60 Seconds.
Don't say that name. Don't say that name. You'd be taken to court for saying the name.
It is a big block manual car. So one day we'll do that. I've actually got another one. But I think it's almost got a bit of Laurel really, because it's just, I don't know, it does everything. It looks like a show car now. I've kind of ruined it, but we still do drifting, we still do the demos. I'm just attached to it. So favourite car is, I have many for different reasons that I enjoy for different reasons, I suppose. Because they all do different things. F250 looks cool. It's not that great to drive, but it's great for towing. Yeah. It's, you know.
When we go outside, because you've got quite a few cars in the front there, I'll do a quick tour around with the camera and show people what you've got here. You've got sat here. Are you contemplating competing again soon, next year, if COVID decides to go away?
I think there's going to be a lot of new things for drifting in 2021. Even though I'm probably a little bit old for it now, and people like Max Cotton, you know, David Goldstow, we were playing on the drift sims last night, they do all the time. Louis Edwards, a lot of younger people, naturally talented, amazing behind the wheel, and I almost think that I couldn't even teach them stuff now, and they've only been doing it a couple of years. So I don't know if I'll ever win anything, but I still will support my teammates and support championships, so I will still compete as long as I'm competitive, I suppose. I think it gets to a point that you're not qualifying or you're just doing badly, then I think that's the time for retiring. But I don't think that's the time for me yet. So we'll certainly be around next year in probably the Chaser now.
Yeah, that's the one outside, the red one,
Yeah.
which is doing its taxi. I didn't get a chance to come and speak to you all on the last Big Boys Day because Max was there. Shane Lynch's nephew was there.
Yeah, Shane, we were drifting with him, yeah.
Yeah, but that would have been good. I'd never met Shane Lynch. I sent him a message a week before saying, would you show me a page? And just by chance, the week after, I'm with my lad watching, because he's learning photography. And he drives past me in his Merc. I thought, oh, well, yeah, that's Shane Lynch.
Yeah.
But there's quite a few famous-ish people who do it now, aren't there?
Yeah.
Right, cool. Well, thanks. I've just kicked the camera. Well, cool. Thanks, Cal. Thanks for your time and letting us have a quick insight into your car collecting and your drift career. It's great, and I will, next time we're down there and we can do, I will come out in the car with you. But I'll make sure I've not had a drink the night before.
You will be just fine. So I would just say thanks for the interview and dragging yourself out in the current situations.
Yeah.
We now have a YouTube channel.
Yep.
So follow What Would Dango Do, Instagram, Facebook or YouTube.
I'll put all the links in the description below. So
Appreciate that.
Thanks very much. Well, there you go. That's Carl for you. He's a great guy, brilliant driver, lots of really interesting cars. I don't know what's coming up next week because COVID is here and it's quite difficult to get to see people in socially distanced interviews. So we'll see you later, takes us, but thanks for watching.